Good Saturday morning. How are you? February 24th, a little after 9 o'clock in the morning here in western Iowa. Hope you are having a wonderful weekend so far. Big changes coming in the forecast. A cold front's going to sweep across the nation, bringing much colder temperatures, some snow, and some severe weather. And a storm moving into the Pacific Northwest later this weekend, bringing low elevation snows for Oregon and Washington, and big time snows further inland in the Pacific Northwest. Today, it's a lot of wind in various parts of the country. Red flag warnings up for parts of Alabama and Georgia. Also, wind advisories in Georgia. A little bit of snow, central Ohio, with a winter weather advisory there. Red flag warning for wind and fire danger in Nebraska, northern Kansas, into northeastern Colorado. And then as you get further west, it's even stronger wind with high wind watches, high wind warnings, wind advisories for Montana, Idaho, into Oregon and Washington. And in the blue, winter storm watches as we're watching for a winter storm that'll be moving into the northwest tomorrow into Monday. Some very heavy snow for the higher elevations, Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, northwestern Montana, and the Cascades of Oregon and Washington, and a little bit of fog this morning in California. Across the country today, stationary front across Kentucky, West Virginia, trailing cold front behind that, but that's your snow in Ohio, parts of Indiana, a mix for the Virginias, and then that's thunderstorms for North Carolina, South Carolina, a little bit of Virginia. And then further west, we have a mix for North Dakota, Montana, Idaho, and Washington State with a little bit of rain along the coast. Temperatures today, very warm over much of the country. You see the cool air moving into the northeast and the Great Lakes area. Those are highs around freezing or below. But otherwise, the center of the country, very warm. 62, Omaha. We're talking 75 possibly early next week. Could be an all-time record high for Omaha for the month of February, and probably the warmest February on record for both Omaha and Des Moines on the way. We're talking a lot of 70s across the state of Texas, 70s and maybe even some 80s for Florida and for Arizona, not unusual for Arizona, and warm temperatures for now in California as well, even mid-50s up in Portland and Eugene. Those temperatures will be falling soon. How about tomorrow? With a cold system moving into the Pacific Northwest, it's a mix for Oregon and Washington, heavy snow in the Cascades. I did check the forecasts for Portland and Seattle. Snow levels in Portland getting as low as 700 feet by Monday, I believe, but hovering around 1,000 feet, but a mixture of snow even at the lowest elevations. And then for Seattle, a little bit lower on the snow levels as you would expect further to the north. So a mixture for Seattle, maybe even some sticking snow there. Idaho, very heavy snow into western Montana as well. A little bit of snow or mixture for Colorado. And then just a little bit of rain for West Virginia and snow up in New York, Vermont, New Hampshire. As we get into Sunday, we start to see our cold front entering the picture there in Montana, Idaho, Oregon. And that's the front that's going to sweep across the country and bring some big changes. But on Sunday, or actually this is Monday, I'm sorry. So Monday's weather, very heavy snow for the mountains of Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, Oregon, Washington, even along the coast range of Oregon and southwestern Washington, some heavy snow possible there, Sierra Nevada too. We're looking at thunderstorms across the Ohio Valley into Kentucky, West Virginia, and that's going to increase as we get into mid next week. We'll show you that here in just a second. Let's go to our GFS model and see how the GFS has it all playing out. This is later on this morning. Here's your snow for parts of Ohio into West Virginia. That changes to rain for Kentucky and Tennessee, although a little bit of snow, say Asheville, North Carolina. And not much else going on around the country. A little bit of snow starting to enter the picture up here in northwestern Washington. As we get to noon today, we see our snow in West Virginia and part of the Appalachians here, and rain out ahead of that for North Carolina and Virginia, moving offshore. And then we turn our eyes to the Pacific Northwest, where our cold low starts to sink southward. Heavy snow starts to break out into the Idaho Panhandle, into northwestern Montana. Heavy snows for the Washington Cascades, and lowering snow levels around Seattle and Olympia, Washington. This is tomorrow at noon, noon Central. So this is 10 a.m. Tomorrow, Washington time. And as that system continues to sink south and east, we see lower elevation snows now in western Washington, rain mixing with snow for the Willamette Valley, Portland area, heavy snow for the Oregon Cascades, and heavy snow into Idaho and Montana as well. A little bit of snow starting to bust out here in Colorado. This is Monday morning, 6 a.m. Central Time. And as we go through the day on Monday, we see these snow levels get pretty low. Western Oregon, Western Washington, again, as low as 700 feet or so for the Portland area. So it is rain for the Willamette Valley, it looks like, but maybe mixing with snow. And you never know, you could get surprised. It does happen. Also for Idaho into Montana, some very heavy snows here. Also around Yellowstone, a little bit of snow for the Colorado Rockies. And then as this front, and you can start to see it line up, I mean, it's pretty easy to pick out. This cold front is going to really bring some big changes, temperature-wise and weather-wise. So that snow now sinking into Wyoming from Montana, Idaho again, moving into Nevada now, Northern California, the Sierra Nevada. As we get into Tuesday, this is midnight Monday Central Time, and now into Tuesday, and we see this front lining up Tuesday. And the models have sped up the front, which happens. These cold fronts out of Canada, sometimes the models have a tough time getting a read at first. And then when they get more of a handle on it, they do tend to speed up sometimes. So that's what's happening now. As we get into 6 a.m. Tuesday Central Time, the front moving through Salt Lake City already, through much of Wyoming, and along or just behind the front, it's heavy snow and a lot of wind, moving into South Dakota all the way up into Minnesota. And as we go through the day Tuesday, that front barrels into Nebraska, parts of South Dakota now starting to see some of that snow coming down behind the front. Ahead of the front, it's warming up. So temperatures getting quite warm ahead of the front. And then the front moves through and temperatures drop like all day, the rest of the day Tuesday. So we'll see the timing of this moving through the area Tuesday night with some snow for me, a little bit. I mean, brief snow. I don't know if it's going to amount to a lot. Right now, they're not saying a whole lot for us for accumulations, probably because it's going to be moving through so fast. But temperatures will definitely be falling, and it will be very windy. Now, out ahead of the front, we're starting to see showers bust out. This is midnight Tuesday night, and we're seeing some rain all the way up here in Michigan, into the Ohio Valley, back into Indiana, moving into Kentucky, back into Arkansas, even North Texas and Pennsylvania as well. And as this front gets closer and plows into this warmer, moist air, we're going to see thunderstorms busting out, and some possibly severe. And we'll show you that area as well. And even briefly behind the front, we could see a little bit of sleet here for parts of Missouri. And then, here's your light snow behind the front. Here are your showers and thunderstorms now starting to bust out ahead of the front. This is 6 a.m. Wednesday Central Time. So some big storms here along and ahead of this front, moving into the Ohio Valley, moving into Kentucky, moving into Illinois, out of Missouri, into Tennessee, Arkansas as well. Again, some of these storms could have some damaging winds, especially some large hail possibly as well. Not talking tornadoes with this system. It looks like more of a straight line wind threat more than anything. And that will continue as we get later into the day, Wednesday, some brief snow behind the front. Meanwhile, another system moving into the Pacific Northwest. This would be Wednesday evening. It's pretty heavy rain for Western Oregon and Washington, heavy snow for the Washington Cascades. This system's going to get colder, though, as we see snow levels starting to drop and very heavy rain along the Oregon coast. Meanwhile, our showers and storms, less on the severe storm, but still rumble of thunder and some rain coming down even into New England. Behind that, there's your area of snow. As we get into the day on Thursday, yeah, thunderstorms through the mid-Atlantic, the Carolinas, Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, changing to snow behind the front. And then the Pacific Northwest, these snow levels start to drop pretty good, and rain along the coast, but in the Willamette Valley, probably rain, but snow levels getting pretty low. Heavy snow for the Siskiyous of California as that system moves into California. Yeah, sure, why not? It's El Nino. That's what they need. More rain and snow. You see how low the snow level is getting in Western Oregon now as we get late in the day on Thursday, get moving into Thursday night. More heavy snow for Idaho into Montana. This is almost, well, actually, this is the last few hours of February. And look at this. So the cold front moving through, dropping temperatures below freezing for like a day, and then warming back up for the middle of the country as this system starts to sink southward along the west coast, causing that bulge of high pressure in the middle of the country. And our system clearing the Pacific Northwest, but so still some low snow levels as we get into the early morning hours of Friday. And the activity sinks into California, and very heavy snows for Idaho again, still, northwestern Montana again, still, and then California braces for its next punch from El Nino. But look how low these snow levels are in Oregon, Northern California. As we get into next weekend, watch for that. And then also California starting to see more rain and snow from that. But these snow levels look pretty low for Oregon and Washington and Northern California with this next system next weekend. All right, now we talked about that cold front that'll be sweeping through the plains and then into the Midwest, and there will be severe weather ahead of that, it looks like. And here are your best chances as of this morning, according to the Storm Prediction Center. So we're looking at southern Michigan, or most of Michigan, through parts of Ohio into Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, and Arkansas. This again for Tuesday into Wednesday. And then Wednesday into Thursday, we see that shift off to the south and east for Kentucky, Tennessee, northern Mississippi, and northern Alabama. Temperature trends for the rest of the month into the beginning of March. Warmer than usual or warmer than average expected for the eastern two-thirds of the country. And that cooler than average sticks around, especially for the Pacific Northwest, with what could be a couple of low elevation snow events in the next week and a half. And then California also below average, it looks like, moving into Nevada and Idaho and parts of northwestern Montana. Precipitation-wise, this is good news for most of the country. Now, California doesn't really need it right now, but it looks like that's the bullseye for above average precipitation would be Northern California, San Francisco on north into Oregon, but still good chances of above average precipitation for the Northwest, Nevada through Central California, but even into Southern California, above average chances, pretty much the rest of the country as well, except for Arizona, New Mexico, far west Texas, and northern New England. But that cold front is coming, and it's going to make a very big difference in your weather. For those of us in the Midwest, we're going to be warming up into the 70s, all the way into almost South Dakota. And then the front moves through, and we're going to have at least one day below freezing with a chance for some accumulating snow. And we'll stay cold for a day or two, and then it warms right back up. But probably the two biggest stories are we have two storms for the Pacific Northwest with low elevation snows, and then we have a chance of severe weather ahead of that front for the Midwest and moving into the Southeast by middle of next week. All right, that's my report as of today. Of course, we'll keep you posted as we go. And thank you once again for tuning in, The Weather Mike.